Hey guys, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest new American football album. It's their third self-titled album. American Football is an Illinois-based emo band. They've been at it since the late 90s, very on and off, and they are Midwest emo icons. In 1999, they very quickly reached cult status with their legendary self-titled debut. It's an album that blends everything from the aforementioned emo to jazz, post-rock, even subtle nods to math rock. And honestly, it's a pretty classic album that I've got not much bad to say about. It's warm, it's emotional, it's incredibly strong from start to finish, and while it might just sound cliche after all these years, it really is the quintessential fall album. Now, at the time, I kind of thought that we were never going to hear from these guys again. They broke up shortly after. They only did a couple of shows for, years. And then 17 years later, we got a follow-up that was also self-titled. Now, after 17 years, the trio had obviously grown up a little bit, and it took a long time for me to get used to this band's new sound. For the most part, it sounds a little corny, but this, in a lot of ways, was a very adult alternative album. And I'll be perfectly honest with you guys, listening to this album the first couple of times, I sat there with my arms crossed, kind of pissed off that this wasn't the classic sound. Now, while this isn't the same old American football that we saw in 1999, it's still a very sincere album, and honestly heartwarming at times. It's far from terrible. So honestly, I never knew if we were going to hear from American football ever again, and when for that matter. But to be honest, here we are in 2019, getting a third self-titled album from these legends, and hearing these singles. At first, I didn't know what I was going to be thinking about them, but I can't help but really get all warm and fuzzy listening to them. So let's chat about this thing. This album starts off with Silhouettes. It's a very pleasant, very breezy start that's almost very summery. But the sheer mysterious factor to this track, and the way that American football are really very patient with the way that this one builds, it's something different and very interesting for the band. So much so that when it eventually does open up into this very spacious, airy emo jam, I can't help but get a little choked up. Instantly, this was the sound that I wanted to hear on their last album, to a T. It's very shimmering, it's got a very positive vibe to it, which is very interesting, and just overall is so unbelievably emotional and sincere still. There are some jazzy tendencies, and a real emphasis as well on post-rock, which I like. And at the end of the day, this is just the sort of return to form that I was really hoping I would hear from American football. And Mike Kinsella on vocals here just sounds so much more into this than anything they did on their last album. I can't tell you enough just how much I wish this was the album we got a few years ago. Take, for example, Heir Apparent. I love the limitless atmosphere on this track and the well-penned lyrics. While the original American football album in the 90s seemed to, get you ready for fall in a really strange, corny way, this is even brighter and more positive of a sound in a really even cornier way. It's very summery feel. Yes, it's corny. Feel free to roast me for that, but it's the damn truth. And the band's post-rock tendencies continue to have never been capitalized on as much as they are here. And for a deep album cut, to be honest, Doom in Full Bloom may be the best track here. I know this is ridiculous, but instantly listening to this track, I feel like I'm a teenager again walking home from high school on a Friday afternoon. The harmonies here are to die for, and I can't tell you just how much I love how breezy this is. And that one lone horn playing in the background just brings back so many memories. It's far from anything outside the box, but after 20 years, American football sound like themselves still, and that's really hard to do. And it's something as fans that we just have to appreciate. The twinkling atmospheres, the sincere vocals, it's all spot on, and I'm just very happy. Now, if I had to choose a track here that I'm not too nuts about, it's Mine to Miss. This album from start to finish is very breezy, very enjoyable, but of all the tracks here, I feel like this one doesn't bring anything new to the table the most. And instrumentally, American football just sound a little unsure of themselves here. Start to finish, they just sound unfocused. The harmonies are fine and all, and the production is still absolutely stunning, to be honest. But even from a songwriting standpoint, this track is not the best of the bunch, by far. But the rest of this album, as far as I'm concerned, is really very enjoyable. Not to mention, American football do something that I really didn't see coming and bring on some very interesting guests. First, we get Every Wave to Ever Rise featuring Elizabeth Powell. The very warm and fuzzy atmosphere continues to be just a home run. And the absolutely immense atmosphere on this album, like, is actually like a real selling point. I just can't help but get completely wrapped up and feel all warm and fuzzy with these guitar licks. And Elizabeth Powell on vocals here brings a well-needed sense of youthfulness to this album. It's really pleasant and honestly makes this track even more dreamy. And as if this track wasn't dreamy and surreal enough, Mike's lyrics here are totally out there, but really fascinating and well written. And I continue to feel like Mike on vocals just sounds so much more interested in this compared to on American Football 2, where he just kind of sounded like he wanted to take a nap most of the time. Then we have the track that I feel like everyone's talking about, Uncomfortably Numb, featuring Miss Hayley Williams of Paramore fame. On the other hand, this track is a very sweet, dreamy ballad. To be honest, I feel like fans of dream pop in general may really be into this album. That's honestly not the story here, is it? No, the story is this is genuinely one of the most mature songs American Football has ever penned. On their last album, they went for a more adult sound and ended up coming off exhausted. This just seems very mature, well thought out, and just really great. That lone horn playing in the background, the plinking guitars, this is absolutely tear-jerking at times. And Hayley in her vocal performance sounds right at home. She has some great chemistry with the boys, A+. And then we have I Can't Feel You featuring Rachel Goswell of Slowdive fame. Dare I say this is the most whimsical and hypnotizing track of the bunch. Like, I continue to be stunned by just how much they're working on these rhythms over time, building them. Like, I wouldn't say that there's like tension or anything in these tracks, but it's really fascinating the way that they start with this small little rhythm and then build it to something much more immense as the track rolls on. Not to mention on this track we do get their legendary subtle nods to math rock in its final moments. And as far as the vocal guest goes, I honestly think Rachel's my favorite of the bunch. And to be honest, I'm really happy with Life Support as a finale. This is so much more of a straightforward track, and this atmosphere is, like, absolutely breathtaking. The instrumentals flowing through the background, whether it be the subtle strings or more conventional instruments, just come off so dreamlike, so surreal. It adds to this atmosphere so much. And Mike's vocals here just sound so recharged, like he doesn't sound tired at all. He sounds like he could have gone for another couple of tracks. It ends up ending off this album on a very positive note, one that I'm very happy with. So overall, I'm really loving this new American Football album, much more so than their last album. As a matter of fact, I wish this was the album they came out a couple of years ago with. Sure, you can argue that they're not doing anything groundbreaking after 20 years since their debut, and at this rate, they're sounding pretty safe, they're doing a lot of the same stuff, but the production is incredible. The instrumentals are dreamy, and the guys just sound so much more into this, and they are doing what they do best after 20 years since their debut, and I can't help but be very impressed with that. I'm feeling a light 8 on this album, but let me know what you guys think down below. If you like the video, be sure to like and subscribe, and let me know what you guys would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, guys.